Hi, my name's Jo Holohan, and I'm a docent with the Cincinnati Art Museum. And today is your daily dose of art from the Cincinnati Art Museum. I thought today we'd talk about Thomas Gainsborough in his portrait of Anne Ford. He wanted to paint something that would be spectacular, that people would just come to see from all over town. And he wanted to be compared positively to all of the established portrait painters of the time, especially Joshua Reynolds. I think this picture does it. Why he painted Anne Ford is something I addressed in a video a few years ago. So if you're interested in that aspect of the painting, you might want to check that out after this. Today, I thought we'd just talk about what makes this a great painting. And it's his masterpiece, or one of them. He did several, but this is a great painting. Seems like whenever somebody wants to do a Gainsborough exhibition, they're asking for this work of art. So let's get into what makes this a great painting. First of all, it's 6.5 feet high and 4.5 feet wide. It's huge. And Anne Ford takes up the majority of the picture plane. There's space on the right and space on the left and a little space above her head, and that's about it. Otherwise, it's Anne Ford. And she's wearing this gorgeous white dress. She's sitting very casually and very comfortably, looking off into the distance. One thing that he did that I find interesting is that he created it so that her hem of her dress and her feet are very close to the bottom of the picture. And what it does is kind of make you feel like you're in the same space as she is. And so the two of you are sharing the same air, so to speak. But yes, if you're standing there close to it, your eye level is right at her shins. And so you're looking up and up and up and up until you see her face. And so to see the whole portrait, you need to step back about 5 feet or so. And then you can see the whole thing. But what that does then is take you out of her presence. And so you're both in her presence and out of her presence at the same time. The way she is posed has us looking at her shins, as I said. And so it makes you think that you are just like gravel beneath her feet. She's looking off into the distance. She doesn't care who's looking at her and who's not looking at her. And we are just beneath her, so to speak, literally and figuratively. If you look at the way he painted the dress and the fabric behind her head, I think you can see that it was very quickly painted, especially the dress. Even from looking at a photograph, you can see that it is quick and vivaciously done. And the laces there are just swoop, swoop, swoop. And then there are thin layers of other paint over it to create this airiness that comes with the dress. Compared that white, silvery, frothy dress to the red drapery behind her, and there's a contrast there of the lightness and then the heavy, dark, red color-saturated fabric behind. They were both painted quickly. There is a difference in feeling between the two. The drapery reinforces her positioning on the canvas, and I guess I would ask you to think, what would it look like if the drapery was in a different color? Would it affect the way you see the painting? So that makes a big difference in this work of art. She is posed what I think of as a Gothic S-curve, even though it's not classic. The top of her body is off to one side, and her hips are out to the other side, and her knees come back to the first side. So she's creating a curve and a curvaceous, almost sexual look to the way she's sitting. But she's quite casual. She has just her hand and her head resting against one another, and she has her guitar, her English guitar, in her lap. But he's created this with a lot of crossing diagonals. And the thing that does is create a movement for our eyes to follow. And so we're looking over here, and then we're looking over there, then we're looking here, and then we're looking there, and that creates more interest for us. So he has created a diagonal with her body, for one, going from the lower left to the upper right, and then with her knees going from the lower right to the upper left, and then that's echoed by both of her arms going from the lower right to the upper left. And the drapery reinforces the angle of her body. The papers on the table cut right through the middle, so your eyes looking at that. And the other thing that is interesting is that he puts the guitar right in the center of the painting. It is right where all the diagonals cross to each other. And so that focuses in on the fact that she is a musician, and that's what she's all about. The two things that I found interesting about this is that there are two upright pieces in this painting that don't move. Everything else is in movement. And there's a table on the right and her viola da gamba on the left that kind of frame her in the picture plane. And you really don't notice those too much because they fade into the background, except for some of the wood on the viola. And so without that, I think it would feel like the painting was just kind of going off. Those two elements put a finish on it and focus your eye inward. Otherwise, her face is looking out one direction and her arms are going the other direction. And this creates a framing almost. So this is a wonderful painting by Gainsborough. It is said, I found this quote when I was looking, that one of the members of the royal family at the time, so I guess that was King George III, his family said, "It is a fine portrait, but I would not want anyone in my family to be presented like that." So Anne was a rebel, and I kind of questioned, was it a good thing or a bad thing for her? Because her life was not easy. And so would we be willing to be that kind of a rebel in today's world that she was? So I applaud her for being a rebel. And I thank you very much for being with me today. Hopefully we'll